All right.
All right. So should we? Are you ready, Alex? Should we do this?
I'm ready.
All right. We're gonna blare the intro music, and then we're gonna tune it down, and then we're gonna read the intro. Welcome to the Code Monkey Podcast, Season 3, Episode 7. Proxima Terra has been confirmed, and Alex is gearing up to visit with his pseudo-scientastic... Alex changed the show notes. EM drive. Elon Musk is doing Elon Musky things, and I took a shower today, so it's good news all around. I'm Kevin Giese, and joining me for a brief respite despite his frequent jousting matches, it's Alex Bragdon. Alex, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a bit hot here.
Is it?
Yeah, the lava really heats things up.
What have you done?
What do you mean what I've done?
I don't know. It just sounds like, I don't know, you coming from your secret lair of...
No.
I don't know.
Joust. Joust is played above a... You've never played Joust?
Okay, I wasn't referring to the game Joust. I was jousting, like, with
lances.
Birds.
Yeah.
No, not with birds. No.
Yes, that's how Joust is played, Kevin.
Yes, that's not... Okay, it's not a... fine. All right. Anyway, how are you doing, Alex? How has your week been?
My week has been really good. It's been pseudoscientastic.
Yeah, so I wrote pseudoscientific, and yeah, so the browser helpfully informs me that pseudoscientastic is a spelling error. So the browser agrees with me that is totally not a thing.
The browsers are stupid.
It has been a very big week for news of our ilk. Like ilk? I don't know.
We've already started pushing stories from this week to next week.
Oh yeah, I took a couple. Well, there's one story that I need to just buy a license to look at the PDF, look at the real research, and it's just nope, I haven't done that yet. Haven't bothered. Move it on. It's always a question though when I write the intros for these, like which of these do we billboard? Because there are some that we're not going to get to.
And there's some we are absolutely going to get to.
Yeah, so I probably shouldn't have mentioned that EM drive thing, because, this whole, Tesla camper story that's been sitting there for 3 weeks, we really got to make sure to get to that.
Yeah, that's totally going to change the world.
I also want to mention, we are testing something out this week, as we do very frequently. I feel like I'm always saying at the beginning of these shows, like, hey, we're trying something weird. What we are trying to do this week is we're trying to record this live.
So make sure you tune in to this podcast live.
Exactly right now.
3 days ago.
No, not negative 3 days. So here's the thing as well, because I was talking to Alex about this, and so you were sort of on board with this.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
That basically, if we're broadcasting this live, then it kind of feels weird to say, and then we'll release it for reals in next week.
Yeah.
And we have talked about in the past that there have been a couple of times where SpaceX is doing a thing. If only we recorded this when, before the, in a reasonable time frame, which we never seem to do. Because we would record on Wednesday and then release on Tuesday, and now we're bumped up to recording on Thursdays and releasing on Tuesdays. So there's a long lag time between when we've been covering stories and then them getting out there.
Well, that used to be because you used to have to spend quite a lot of time editing.
Yes. But I want to give you some kudos. I don't have a kudos sound effect, but I feel like I should have a kudos sound effect. Alex, you did not hit the mic one time in the last episode.
I think I just did a few minutes ago.
That's but
I wasn't talking.
It's regression to the mean. It's regression to the mean is what it is. But still, you had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful episode. So thank you very much. It was very easy for me. I just had to sit there and play the thing back at double speed and be like, oh, good. All right, good to go. There's the end of it. There's the beginning of it.
I think last podcast was all around a very good podcast.
I think so as well. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this one's even better.
Yes.
For one reason.
What is that reason?
Can you guess?
I think you're going to lead into stories, but I want to talk about this first real quick because I want to wrap this up. So ahead. Yes, we are trying to record live. If recording live works, if we don't discover any sort of crazy disasters, there are some people that are in the chat, which is amazing. We have fans that are listening and paying attention. And Spoo said, "Oh, look, a thing." So they're contributing as well. if this podcast goes well, if we're able to get the recording and nothing is ruined, we're actually going to release this on Friday, and we're going to try moving our schedules to Friday. Now, Friday, it seems like it might actually be a better release day for us in general because, then you got people doing their big exercisey things on Saturday mornings.
But
or the farmer's market. So if you need something to accompany you to the farmer's market or whatever, our dulcet tones.
My counterpoint to that was that, it's still going to be a Friday to Friday release. You still have exactly 1 week to listen to the episode, right? So it was on Tuesday.
No. I mean, I'm going to get this edited and uploaded for tomorrow.
I understand, but when it was edited and uploaded on Tuesday, people, by the time the weekend came around, the podcast was still there, sitting in the podcast app.
What? Oh, yes. Yeah, if you want to still listen to it on Tuesday, you're perfectly well. In fact, you can listen to it next year. We'd prefer that you listen to it now.
Yes.
But yeah, okay, so I guess, yes, we're just giving you permanent early access.
Right,
to the podcast.
I see, this is why I was like, okay, we can change the date. I don't really know that it matters because literally any day we release on, as long as we consistently release, they're going to have a week. You can listen to the podcast on any day of the week that you want.
That is certainly true. But, okay,
whatever.
Fine, poke holes in my theory. But anyway, if this works, we're going to try and get it up on Friday so that there's not a big disconnect between the people who are able and unemployed enough to tune in
what does that make us,
to listen
Kevin?
to the recording, to the live recording, and so we don't want to stratify the audience into the available and the not available, and those poor not availables will have to wait. What if we say something incredibly useful or clever? I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but it could happen, and then those poor people would have to wait an additional several number of days.
Everyone, go sell your Exxon Mobil stock right now. That's my useful tip.
I've not been paying attention. Is there something?
What? No, I just picked a company and gave a stock tip.
I was like, did I miss? Is there some big some oil tanker exploded across all of Canada? Japan. I don't know.
Japanada. That's
Japanada?
Japanada.
Okay. Oh man. This is going well. Okay. So I've held back the floodgates as much as I can. Alex, despite it not being the top build story, this is the story that you are most excited about because there's the story that kind of is the big news that I guess one would assume
we have to build into that.
We have to get to there, but there's also the secondary news that you are super super hyped about. So tell us about this.
The best part is this super great news is a month old. I just didn't find it for a month.
Okay.
But Kevin, do you want to read what I've titled this particular thing?
Shoot, this is the problem when I reorder stuff. I'm trying to figure out where the heck did this go.
Where did it? The most.
Oh, right. There it is. All right. So, paired photons power perplexing propulsion physics is what you titled it.
Yes.
In a desperate attempt to throw me off. But little did you know that I actually did spend a not insignificant amount of time this week repeating that over and over and over.
Darn it. Did you actually?
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
So you pasted this link in here from Science Alert.
Yes, our most trusted news source.
Exactly. Yes. According to the researchers, the exhaust being blasted out is actually light, or more specifically, see, you pull a quote without any context. No, we'll just go with it. We'll just go. We'll read this clip and then we'll move on to the next story. All right. No, according to the researchers, the exhaust, some exhaust of something, being blasted out of somewhere is actually light, or more specifically, photons that have become paired up with another out-of-phase photon in order to shoot out of the metal cavity and produce thrust. So this is a story about dentistry?
Yes.
All right. Yep. Perfect.
Dentists have invented the world's greatest propulsion mechanism. It's teeth-powered photon interactions.
Wow.
I have no idea what that means. Anyway, this story is actually about the EM drive, the greatest propulsion system ever invented.
Yes.
And the best thing we ever talk about on this podcast.
One of the few things we talk about on this podcast.
It is amazing. Now, Kevin, you have been dubious as to the actual existence of the EM drive for quite some time now.
That is certainly true.
Would you like to inform us what your major objection to the EM drive has been up to this point?
So the idea with the EM drive, to vastly oversimplify it, to make people understand why it doesn't make sense to everyone else. Take a funnel and close both ends. Well, before you close both ends, put some grains of sand in there. And then close both ends. And then shake it about. And if you think about the places that those particles of sand are going to strike, they're going to strike more on the wide end of the funnel and less on the small end. And so the idea is that, well, we can use that because now there's unequal forces. So the whole system should move in the direction of the wide end of the funnel. Now, if you try this at home, you will discover something weird. It doesn't actually seem to work.
Well, and even in the EM drive case, it doesn't move towards the wide end of the funnel. It moves towards the narrow end of the funnel.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right. So, yeah. But that doesn't even make sense because you're going to have more particles hitting on the wide end. So why would that happen? So the answer to why the EM drive works.
Well, we should just before
give away
before because I mean this is kind of the golden ticket egg. I don't know.
I've got a golden ticket.
Oh man, Alex Bragdon singing first time on the podcast. That is going into a sound clip. That is going into a sound clip so fast.
It's my favorite movie.
Oh really?
As a kid, before I saw Interstellar and Back to the Future. My other favorite movies.
Neither of those had Gene Wilder, though.
That is correct.
Which is a shame. I feel like both of those movies would have been improved by Gene Wilder.
I think Gene Wilder could have been a very good Doc Brown.
I agree. I think he could have also been a very good John Lithgow.
Yeah. He does have a fairly wide range.
Yep. Although I love John Lithgow anyway.
Yeah.
So basically the idea, this is the Holy Grail. That's the word the expression that I was looking for.
The Holy Grail is
the Holy
warp
Grail,
drive.
the golden ticket. This is the Holy Grail of what you want in a propulsion system.
The Holy Grail is warp drive.
It doesn't have to spit anything out the back though.
Okay.
And so,
but it does.
That's how all of our rockets work, is that you're pushing against something else. And that's frustrating.
This also spits things out the back,
The problem that people have had with this EM drive is that it's in principle a closed system. You've sealed both ends of the funnel. You're not there. There have been proposals that have been said of, well, let's just shoot high density hydrogen particles out the back. It can be very, very small streams that are just hypercharged and blah, 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 blah. But you still have to expel that fuel, which means that, eventually you run out of fuel, which is rough. It also means that, you've got to carry up far more fuel than you actually need, because you've got to have fuel that propels that fuel, which ends up being the reason that you need a huge rocket to put a tiny little satellite in space. And so this is the thing that everyone has very much wanted, but there's been a lot of skepticism because the EM drive there have been some experiments that sort of indicated, hey, there are some weird phantom forces that make it look like this works, even though it totally shouldn't. And all the physicists are like, no, there's no way this could possibly work. It's a closed system. You're not, you have to consume energy, thermodynamics, everything we know about physics.
Depend on the conservation of momentum. Yes,
exactly.
I agree.
So physicists and engineers have been having a weird time with this. But now, thanks to this article, Alex can be very excited.
But now, they've actually found that there is an emission to the EM drive. There is. Kevin is holding his tongue.
Found?
They've theorized.
Yeah, there you go.
They found it in the math. They discovered the math.
I don't know. Well, I think it's more, you can come up with a theory that sort of explains it, right?
Right. So the basic principle is that microwave radiation is a form of electromagnetic radiation. Just like light is a form of electromagnetic radiation. When you turn on your light bulb, you get photons that sort of come out of the light bulb, and then they bounce off me, and they go into the camera, and that's how you see me, if you're watching this on a video. But yeah, so photons are a super great thing that allow the transmission of electromagnetic radiation. And the EM drive is using microwave levels of electromagnetic radiation. So they emit microwave photons into that cavity
Which means small waves.
Yeah. Microwaves.
I'm just contributing. Sorry, go on.
No, you're absolutely right. And so they pump microwaves into this sort of sealed system, as it has been thought before, and you get a sort of propulsion out of it. And everyone's like, "Ooh, it's energy from nowhere," and it's not energy from nowhere; it's energy from the microwaves. And then they're like, "Oh, it's momentum from nowhere because it's all sealed." But no. So it turns out that when the microwaves bounce around in this sort of EM drive sealed tube containery thing,
yes,
eventually, just due to random chance, two of them will run into each other that are the exact opposites of one another. And when that happens, they will cancel each other out, and they will lose all of their...
the odd couple of physics. Oh, shoot, I hovered the mouse. I'm sorry. It's the odd couple. I can't make an odd couple reference. No one knows what that is anymore.
I don't even know what that is.
One is fastidious and one is a slob.
Okay. All right. I don't know what fastidious
They're
means.
exact opposites. Oh, man.
Okay.
All right. Freaking millennials.
But it's lit, though.
Is it bad that there have been times when I just say, I wish I could just like hire a person whose job it is to like explain the context of a lot of these things to me? Just like I don't know.
No,
I don't understand.
Anyway, Kevin's midlife crisis out of the way.
Oh, it's not out of the way. It's still very much in the way.
Okay, pushed back into the box.
Right.
So the photons, they run into each other and they cancel each other out. And they cancel everything about each other out, including their ability to interact with the EM drive container itself. So they can no longer bounce off the side of the wall. They just go right through it. It's like being out of phase in Star Trek. You just sort of fall out the back of the ship, except that never happens for some stupid reason.
Right.
And when they fall out the back of the ship, they give up all of their momentum into the craft.
Right.
And I believe that's where the sort of differential between that and a photon rocket comes in.
There's a photon rocket?
Right. It's a laser. So it's been long been theorized.
I was getting really excited. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to totally back the photon rocket as the alternative to the... No, okay, it's a laser.
So it's been long been proven that if you built a spaceship with a giant laser on the back of it, it would move because you'd be emitting photons out the back.
Wonderful 1-3 has announced that they rebooted The Odd Couple on CBS. Hooray!
What?
I'm not irrelevant anymore. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for
CBS?
Oh, I have no idea about that, but but
anyway,
The Odd Couple's been rebooted. Cool. Okay.
Why is everything rebooted?
Lasers. Yes.
So
okay.
You put a giant laser on the back of their rocket ship, and your rocket ship is going to start moving in the opposite direction because you're firing photons out, and for every reaction, there's an equal opposite reaction.
Right.
But the photons still maintain a large amount of their own momentum, right? So they carry a lot of energy away from the system.
Yes.
And so what is believed to be happening is that when these microwave photons interact and cancel themselves out entirely, all of the energy that's going into the system is then, kept into the system.
Right.
So that it's sort of a closed energy system, even though there is an exhaust. It's just it's like a no energy exhaust.
Well, so the thing, like, the thing that I don't know, have people done this? I don't know if this is a shared experience with people, where you look at sound waves. If you open up, this is kind of a hack if you're ever looking to make your own karaoke tracks. Which is a complete tangent, but it actually is completely relevant.
Open up Audacity and you cancel out the...
Open up Audacity, take the left and right stereo channels. Now, generally the way, and this will work with most music, but not necessarily all of it. Generally, the way that music is mixed is that they'll put instruments on different sides. So you'll maybe have a little bit more guitar on the left, and a little bit more drums on the right, and et cetera. And so things are panned left to right. The vocals are generally completely straight in the middle, which means that your left channel and your right channel have the exact same pattern in them.
Right.
The exact opposite of a wave pattern will completely cancel it out, though. So if you take left and right and you flip one of them over and then you play them back again, you're going to get no vocals. A lot of times you'll end up with a little bit of the echo and the reverb and stuff because those can be panned. But it's kind of the same principle here, is that you're dealing with photons acting as waves. You're just going, hey, look, these things are, completely in opposite phase of each other, and so they cancel out, and so they can't interact with anything. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm understanding this? All right, because I was like, hey, perfect. Alex, should I try and read this and figure out what's going on? And he was like, yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I was,
that's correctly. Perfectly complete. Like, the photons are in opposite phases. So when one is peaking, the other is going into a trough. So they're waves.
Yes.
And they're perfectly synced up so that they just totally cancel out.
Yeah. See, look, we've completely canceled each other. We're waving, by the way, audio listeners. Now I'm worried that we're going to forget that this is an audio podcast. We have so many distribution channels.
The thought has crossed my mind, but whatever. we'll cross that bridge when we blow it up. I don't know.
Whoa. Violence, Alex. Violence.
It's not really, it's destruction. It's only violence if people are involved.
Okay, well, fair. All right. If you build evil robots to do your bidding, then you can't be held accountable.
No, that's not what I'm arguing at. What? That's
exactly what you're arguing, Alex. I have to say, so here's the thing that I have to say. One, I don't entirely understand. This is not to discredit this at all. I don't entirely understand how photons can impart momentum at all. That's a separate thing. But secondly, reading this and thinking about how this could work. Now, I have been a big critic of the EM drive, Alex. This has been your pet project, and I've been like, you're crazy. There's no way that this can happen. This doesn't... Conservation of freaking momentum, man.
Yep.
I consider myself a fan of very basic high school level physics.
Okay.
This is my jam.
Yeah, this is basically freshman college level physics. I can see where the problem is.
No, this is still... No, this idea solves that problem.
Yes. And it solves it without breaking all of physics like everyone else is trying to do.
Exactly. Now, of course, this is potential and this is in theory, right?
Right. It's not been proven, but it's the first, this scientific theory makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
And here's the reason I put it in the podcast.
Because it had something to do with the EM drive.
No, there's a second link there. Have you clicked on that second link?
I did not click the second link.
So, after this paper came out, a guy over on one of
I have seen this.
Yeah, so on hackaday.io, which is just a sort of a micro-blogging service or a regular blogging service for people to...
It's Tumblr for old school nerds.
Yeah, so people building projects and working on things can keep a build log of the stuff they're building and working on and stuff.
Yes.
That's basically the point. So this guy, Paul Kolia, I don't know how to pronounce your name.
I'm not gonna jump in and save you on this one because I'm just gonna let you take the heat.
It's Paul Kocyla. There. Now I've given proper credit. Right. He's written a very simple simulation of particles bouncing around in an EM drive shaped sort of configuration of a cavity, because it's basically a big funnel. Yeah, it's one of the funnels like Kevin was talking about. It's just a big empty space in which these photons bounce around in. And he used his high school physics book and he copied out some of the equations and sort of the wave forms and all of that stuff. And when it just had everything sort of being generated randomly, and these particles just bouncing around, he simulated a million of them or something just bouncing around inside this cavity. And based on just the information he pulled out of his physics textbook, he was simulating an EM drive and it was showing thrust in the correct vector. So it was showing that you were getting movement exactly as the experiment was showing.
Well, but that's never been the issue.
No, it hasn't.
The issue has been how do you deal with the lack of exhaust, and where does the conservation of energy get resolved?
Right.
And so this doesn't mean, and I think this has been demonstrated in some of the physics papers that tried to explore how an EM drive could work, and they'd be like, hey, if you figured out the problem with the EM drive, then yeah, this shape would make sense, right?
Right. Yeah. So, but I mean, it's just adding sort of fuel to the sort of idea that it is the paired photons that are causing this to happen. So two photons interacting and canceling each other out. Because if you run this simulation without photons canceling, you get no thrust. Right. And I think that's sort of the problem. But when you add in the factor that, photons can interact and cancel themselves out, then suddenly this model starts working. And so that's just one tiny tweak you can make that doesn't rewrite all of physics, which makes the EM drive work.
Here's the other thing, though. I don't, as someone who writes software, and you write software as well.
Yeah.
Would you ever trust software that you wrote to demonstrate something real about the universe? I would not try and infer anything based on the behavior of my software. I have an inherent complete mistrust in software that I think is well earned.
So this guy said he's going to clean up and release his code.
Oh, cool.
And so I want to actually try to write a genetic algorithm version of this once he puts out the code, and just have it like try different configurations and different sizes of sort of the cavity. And I want to see if I can get like, I don't know how, if like it even gives a magnitude of thrust as in this thrust vector. I haven't seen his code because he hasn't put it up yet. But I'm really hopeful that you can like try to optimize this even before physics has decided it's a real thing.
That would certainly be cool. Just like coming up with some crazy shapes and
right. And so like my confidence level when I read this paper and then saw this sort of simulation went from 51% certain that it's real to 80% certain that it's real.
Okay.
Like I think it exists. My only concern right now is that sort of all of the experiments that have been done so far have had fairly large sort of margins for error, but they were still throwing thrust that was larger than the margin for error. I'm just worried that the amount of thrust the EM drive is generating isn't actually that much greater than sort of a photonic rocket or sort of other electrical based systems we've had.
Well, but even so, even if that's the case, this is still really cool because all you need to do is generate photons. You don't need to carry, because photons are not a non-renewable resource if stars exist.
But we could always use lasers. Like, lasers has always been an option. They're just so weak.
But
like,
they need something to push against, don't they? Like, wasn't the whole idea with the laser? No, I'm thinking of something else.
No, what you're thinking of is...
I'm thinking of push rockets.
So you can use a solar sail. You can use a solar sail. And that actually works really well because they're imparting all of the energy again. So they bounce off. So the idea is that you have a really big, powerful laser on like the moon or something where there's no atmosphere. And then you have a solar sail, which is just a big shiny piece of paper on your rocket.
A shiny piece of paper. Okay.
I mean, basically that's all it is. And
it's a little more expensive though. It's like the high fiber count, glossy paper. Okay. Like they keep it in the back. Yeah. You go into Office Depot. I'm trying to remember like the Office Supply store that didn't go out of business.
It's I think nice.
Office Depot's the one that still exists.
Staples still exists.
Right, Staples. That's the one.
Yeah. So you put your laser on the moon. You point it at your spaceship, and then sort of the photons in the laser bounce off the solar sail or the shiny part of your rocket, and they impart a good amount of their momentum.
Right.
I'm not sure it's quite half of it.
Yeah,
but
this is the part that I don't understand, right? Mm-hmm. So, light, photons, particles and waves, sort of, in some crazy weird thing. Presumably, when we look at them as particles, when we consider them as particles, they have some sort of point mass.
Photons do not have mass.
Or no mass.
But they do have momentum.
Well, here's the thing. Momentum is a factor of mass and speed. And because photons are stuck, because they have no mass, they have to be traveling at the speed of light. So their momentum should have to be constant. This is the whole me only knowing high school physics problem. That's a very logical reaction to have, but this has been something that's been around since special relativity. Solar sails work. Like, this is not obviously that can't be the case because solar sails work and are in use. There's a Japanese satellite that is solar sailing around the world. Yeah.
So, but that's a huge question. How can photons have no mass but still have momentum?
I can understand that they have momentum. I can't understand that their momentum changes. And then you have like a high momentum photon and a low momentum photon because they're still going at the same speed. They got to be going at the same speed. That's the rule.
So it all has to do with the wavelength of their light because the wavelength is determined by how much energy And because E equals mc squared, mass and energy are the same thing. So you can have a velocity and an energy, and that's how you can compute momentum.
Right.
So momentum, it's like there's some formula. It's like
So is the energy like basically its ability to interact with matter then? So basically the less its moment. Oh yeah, that would make sense. Then the less its momentum, the less it can interact with the edge of the EM drive shell.
Right. So you can calculate the relativistic mass of a photon by dividing Planck's constant by the wavelength multiplied by c.
We're done here. We can just kind of pack up and go eat Smurfs.
It got too mathy for me, Alex. I gotta be honest. Actually,
Sorry.
I want to. So, Soron Lin in the chat asks, "Okay, wise guy," which I'm assuming for the first time ever means you and not me, which is really awesome. Hopefully,
Wow.
How do you slow down at Proxima Centauri? Which we're going to get into. We have actually talked about this, though.
You just turn it around.
Right. But we have actually talked about this. In fact, we did talk about precisely like if the EM drive worked, how long would it take to get out to Alpha Centauri and to get back? In particular, that is the big challenge, is that even though you can presumably, you can accelerate it at a very rapid pace, it takes so long to get to any bit of the speed of light that basically you spend 4.5, despite the fact that we can get to crazy speeds, it takes us so long to accelerate that we basically spend 4.5 years accelerating and then an additional 4.5 years decelerating. And like very little time at, whatever the crazy high speed is. I think that's what we ended up saying, is it was roughly 9 years from the perspective of the traveler, which ended up being something like 13 or 14 years from the perspective of an Earthican.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was quite that high, but it was.
I think it was 13. I think.
Okay, maybe.
I could
we did all the math on some
we did all the
prior
math. We did all the
podcast.
math in the podcast. We were like, nope, to hell with the rest of the show notes. We're going to sit here and do the math that we totally don't know how to do at all. We're just going to go to Wikipedia, copy some formulas, paste them into Wolfram Alpha.
I had taken some relativity classes.
Fine. Alex knows things, but I didn't know things, and I was the one who was like, no, we're doing this.
That's how you do your homework, though. You basically go to Wikipedia and be like, "Oh, what are Einstein's equations again?" Like, "Oh, yeah." Like, that's how the world works. You just go to Wikipedia and look things up, and then follow the steps.
Yes, but this does transition us very well into the story that, of course, we're supposed to be covering, obviously, for this week.
But now we can get there. We can be so much more excited knowing that we can get there.
Yes. Well. Maybe still, it's not proven. We should be clear. And this is there was a tweet that I saw that it's actually about the Proxima Centauri story, but it just said it's important to remember that a lot of science journalism should really be considered science fan fiction.
It's just a little more possibility of true. Just a little bit more.
Well, no, it's like, oh my god, that's the thing. I'm going to totally spin that around and add some more stuff. I think that's a valid point. So this is a theory that I could see explaining how the EM drive could work. Mm-hmm. There's still not been any reports that like, hey, the EM drive does work and we can rule out.
Except for that whole NASA experiment.
They still said they couldn't rule out experimental error. They didn't reach double secret accuracy, so they weren't sure.
I know. And see, that's why I'm worried that, like, perhaps the EM drive does work. It just produces no more thrust in a photonic rocket, so it's not that exciting, but it does work.
It would still be exciting, though. It'd be cool. It
would be cool. I'll give you that. It just won't be as cool as, like, oh, now we can go places, because it would just be a weird photonic rocket.
Right.
It might be a little more efficient, though, and that would be definitely cool. If it's even marginally more efficient, then I'll be super happy. If it's no more efficient, then I'll just be like, eh. But I do think it works. I don't know that. I have nothing to back that up. But I personally, Alex Bragdon, will certify that the EM drive works.
Okay.
So you can cite me in any of homework or essays or papers you'd like.
Wow. That is incredibly magnanimous of you.
I am Alex Bragdon, future time traveler. By that I mean I travel to the future at a rate
eventually
defined by relativity.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'll just leave it to people to unpack that statement. All right, so let's talk about Proxima Centauri.
All right.
The big, huge announcement that we did talk a little bit about in the last episode. We were talking about Der Spiegel, which... Oh man, that's still such a fun That's such a fun word to say. Thank you, Germany, for that.
Thank you, Germany.
Yes. Thanks, Germany. Anyway, so Der Spiegel, there was a leak from one of the people who works for the ESO.
And I said it was correct, and Kevin was like, eh.
That and it was possible that a rocky planet was discovered around Alpha Centauri, which is very, very, very close to us, comparatively speaking. It's not like right next door, like my neighbor's next door. It's not like that close. It's not like just a walk out of the door for a few minutes.
It depends on how fast you can walk.
Well, it depends. Yeah, that's true. But it is very near on the intergalactic universal scale.
It's as close as you could possibly get, actually.
Is it?
That there's nothing closer.
We don't know about it. We know there could be like
we would have noticed a star.
There could be dark planets though. Those are fascinating to me.
But they'll have no energy. They'll have nothing useful.
No. That's not necessarily true.
Well, they'll have like iron.
No, because they could have been ejected. So it could be that you have subterranean people living on a planet with no sun.
And I suppose thermal energy. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
They're not going to be people.
What? Yeah,
They're not going to be. They're not going to be people.
Humans, but complex life could exist.
You could have complex
on a planet
life
that was just flowing out. It could be Sedupiter.
In a cave.
Would not be
there's not going to be. It would not. No, they're just living in a gaseous cave,
exactly.
like a gaseous cave. That doesn't make any sense.
Right, but anyway, so the ESO, the European Southern Observatory, there was a dude who leaked. He's like, "Hey, we think we found another Earth," which is always a big hypey thing to say. And I did say on the last episode, it's not that I disagreed that it was true, but I said one of two things is true. Either they're waiting until like an opportune conference so they can PR this thing, which to me is frustrating because I'm like, if you discover cool things, tell us. Or they didn't reach super double secret accuracy. Also and so the leaker person was a bad scientist. That was
neither of those proved correct.
So what is well, I'm not sure that neither of those are correct.
They just released it on a random day without any extra
after it was leaked, yes. After it was leaked and the news cycle started and they went, oh, well, I guess that we're not going to wait for our super fun Geneva conference where everyone will buy us cocktails for discovering the new Earth.
Well, they'll still do that anyway.
No, people aren't going to buy him cocktails now because now it's just old news.
I would. Invite me to the conference. I'll buy you a cocktail.
Oh, brilliant. All right. So, yes. And actually, the article that you cited was not that they had announced anything. It was that they had said that they were going to make an announcement.
Well, yeah. I never went back and updated it after they did.
So the article that I found that was better than yours because it actually did say.
But I put mine up first, so right. I win.
This is from Universe Today. It says, after weeks of speculation, with anticipation reaching its boiling point, the ESO has confirmed that they have found a rocky exoplanet around Proxima Centauri, known as Proxima B.
What a dumb name.
Exactly. This is what I'm thinking. Like, why? Of all of the names.
Do you know what name it should have been, Kevin?
What is it this time?
What do you mean, what is it this time?
It's
the same as always.
No, every single time you've said this, it has been something different.
No, it's just being warped by relativity. It's the same. It's just your perspective of it has changed. Yeah, it's alex.bragdon.is.awesome.is.planet.http.-- Yep. Same as it's always been.
I mean, to be fair, having a a URL style for naming planets would actually be kind of nice.
Yeah,
to have like the local group dot the
universe
the galaxy
dot local group.
Yeah, exactly. Universe dot local group dot blah. Like with Java packages.
Yeah, Java naming convention is actually really good. It's one of the best parts about Java.
Their package naming is good. Their function naming and library naming is no, it's awful.
Well, that's all up to whoever names things.
What? And here's a good question by Saron Lin. What happened to Proxima A, Alex?
I'm sorry that we lost it in an accident. I was trying to recalibrate the schmiggle and it all kind of flew apart. I'm sorry.
Proxima A does not give me any search results.
Yeah, I accidentally deleted it from time.
Rather, Proxima A gives me a search called The Search for Earth Proxima, a short documentary about the Earth. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what happened to Proxima A.
I told you. I accidentally deleted it from time.
I am curious, though, why these naming conventions? And I know it feels like if you're going to, because there are planets that just have like crazy number letter mashup names, right? And those are the ones that were like, it's far enough, we don't care about it. It just has a scientific classification name. And then if you're gonna not do that, then give it like a cool name. Call it Smurth or something.
Smurth? Smurf Earth.
Yes. So yes, it's confirmed to be rocky, which is cool, and it is 4.25 light years from our solar system.
Yes,
which is a significant distance. Actually, I think when it comes to Proxima B, this may actually have more to do with the star that it is orbiting.
Yeah,
because you have Alpha Centauri A and Alpha Centauri B.
Yep.
And it's a trinary system, but one of them's a small little dwarf dude that doesn't matter.
But that's the one it's orbiting around.
Is that the one it's orbiting around?
Yes.
Okay. I should pay more attention to these things. But if I remember, this is very vaguely like I have this inkling that this has something to do with more about the star that it orbits around directly, and less about it's the second planet.
I don't really. I mean, besides the fact that I accidentally deleted Proxima A from existence, I don't really know why it's named Proxima B. I would have thought they would have reused Proxima A, but I guess someone remembered. I don't know. It's very confusing.
Wait. So there was a Proxima A at some point?
Yeah, and I accidentally deleted it from history.
Okay, sorry. In that narrative, right? Okay.
But what narrative? That's what happened.
Right. Yep. That's what happened, Alex. Good job on destroying that planet.
I didn't destroy it. It just doesn't exist.
You just misplaced it.
It's just missing
it may
from
pop up at any time.
It could. It could destroy the Earth if we're really unlucky.
So this could mean this could be cool. This could mean absolutely nothing.
I mean, it's cool that it's cool because at the nearest star to us, we found a rocky, almost Earth-sized planet. It's a little bit bigger planet in the habitable zone of the star,
right.
Which means that can have liquid water. That's cool because literally the next star over has it, and our star has it. That means that those types of planets are bound to be extremely common.
Spoo has told us that Der Spiegel, I'm just mentioning this because I get to say Der Spiegel again, is a very high reputable weekly news magazine. So cool. This is not like the Inquirer said, hey, someone from NASA said there's aliens. So the leak does, I guess, hold some weight. It still does bother me that this guy, either that the group was holding things back for random reasons, or that this guy was releasing information before it was confirmed satisfactorily within.
This guy was actually just me. I hacked into them.
Right. Well done.
Their password.
So I'm very disappointed in you, Alex.
No one changes their root router password. It's always admin password every time. Every time. Go change your router password right now, everyone. Do it.
So we should be clear, though. Mars is also in the habitable zone. Our habitable zone. It's not in Alpha Centauri's habitable zone.
Yeah, we can have liquid water on the surface. Yep.
That doesn't necessarily mean much. Like if we got out there and we discovered another Mars, or something worse than Mars.
It doesn't mean much to us right now.
Right.
But, we have had very serious discussions about colonizing Mars, and we'll very likely do so. We will very likely have a colony on Mars within if we make it a few millennia, we'll definitely have Mars colonies.
We'll have colonies, yeah, but we're not going to be terraforming it, I don't think. The problem is that the solar winds are knocking off so much of everything that Mars is past its prime, which is the really sad thing. It's like
I agree.
Mars was better in the past than it will be in the future, which is sad. But I guess just the point being that Proxima B could be really exciting. We could discover oh my gosh, it could even be oh look, there's life.
It's basically a larger Mars. So
it could be Earth. It could.
I mean, it could be.
But for right now,
I mean, we do know it's red.
Do we?
Yeah, we do know it's red.
Oh.
Well, wait, no. That may just because it's orbiting a red dwarf. Because people keep calling it a red dot, so it may just be because it's orbiting a red dwarf.
Yeah, tint, Alex.
So here's the
you gotta
problem.
account for tint.
So here's the problem. We don't know. We might not know a lot about this planet for a good time to come unless we get really, really lucky. So the way
or
we learn,
go out and look.
yeah, right. But like, so here's the problem. Right now, the main way that we learn about other planets orbiting other stars is that we wait for the planet to go in front of the star, and then we look at the light that comes, like, passes through the atmosphere and reflects towards Earth, right? So it's like if you hold a flashlight behind your hand and then you looked at the glow that your hairs would give off of it if you had very hairy hands.
Okay.
That's exactly what it's like.
These are the experiments that you do when you're bored. Just like, all right.
I just grow a bunch of hair on my hand.
I want to figure out what my hand hair is made up of. Let's look at the different wavelengths.
So, yeah, that light is then like different colors and splits up differently depending on what sort of compounds and molecules and atoms are in the atmosphere of that planet.
Right.
The problem is, in order for us to do that, the planet has to be orbiting the star just so that it aligns that it has a transit between the star it's orbiting and Earth.
Right.
And
or
there's
the Hubble telescope, or whatever.
Right. Usually it's the Hubble telescope because then our own atmosphere won't interfere with it.
I guess that probably means that once we start building observatories around, like if we were to put a Hubble like around Mars, for example, we'd probably just like double the amount of stuff. Even if we had something that was just the same strength as Hubble, just because there'd be different angles.
But the angles, it's such a large distance. Because you got to think about the cone. Because it's a cone of light, so you start out from one side and it just spreads out so far.
Okay.
That like it's on a plane, so you basically
on a jet plane.
You have a plane that extends out.
Don't know
a certain yeah. So because it's a plane, so just imagine like you cut an orange in half and put a piece of paper in the middle and then put the top of the orange back on.
If we put it on like Pluto, which has a crazy inclined orbit, then maybe that'd help.
No, because if you then tilt the orange, the plane then extends like we'd have to go light years in one direction out of the plane of the solar system.
I remain skeptical.
Okay, I can prove you the geometry later. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Like the solar system can see what the solar system can see, and so
Alex,
there's about a
solar system doesn't have eyes.
Yes, it does. It has plenty of potatoes and humans.
Okay,
and
fair.
Other things with eyes.
That's fair. It does sort of beg the question. Not beg the question, I guess. We don't know kind of what the frequency is of. I guess to some extent we probably do.
Rocky Goldilocks planets?
Yeah, basically the prevalence of Rocky Goldilocks planets.
Why it's so exciting.
Well, right, but it seems. I mean, obviously you have things like this, and you go, well, it's got to be fate or something. It's almost like, oh, look, there's a breadcrumb trail for us to follow, right? Like, hey, look, there's Mars, which is like sort of barely manageable, like that happens to be nearby and somewhat easy to get to. Venus is easier, but Mars is relatively nearby and easy to get to. That's pretty cool. And then, hey, look, the nearest star system just happens to have something where it could be like even if this is the
worst case is it's Mars.
Yeah, no.
Worst case is that it's Mars.
No, because you could have Mars that is more decayed. You could just have a more decayed Mars. It's just even worse than current Mars.
I don't really know if that would affect anything, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
If it had less atmosphere than almost nothing.
It's not just, well, yeah, maybe. Well, but no, radiation shielding, though, is the thing as well.
So
Mars provides a little bit of that now. And, a billion years from now, it's going to be like, hey, if you stand on the planet, you will die from cancer.
Okay, so I'll actually take that back. Venus is sort of the worst case scenario for this planet.
That's a good point.
Because Venus is a rocky planet about the same size as Earth, but it had the opposite problem as Mars.
Except you get
Mars
Cloud City with Venus. We've had this argument. I feel like colonizing Venus, yes, would be much more difficult, but man, you'd be so cool when you did. You'd feel so proud of yourself, and it'd look awesome, and it'd inspire science fiction forever, man. If that just became like a normal thing that we do, we just have floating cloud cities. Man,
right. So this planet is really going to be no worse than Venus and no better than Mars.
Right.
You really can't.
That is a fair band of terrible, though.
Right. It goes from having far too much atmosphere, which has trapped far too much heat and melts everything immediately, to having no atmosphere where the solar radiation is not great, but the temperature can actually be like survivable without a spacesuit. Temperature-wise, you could be fine on the surface of Mars at certain points in the day. It fluctuates violently. Like, it goes down to, like, negative 200 degrees Fahrenheit and then up, like, in the sun to, like, hundreds of degrees.
50.
Maybe negative 50 C.
Oh, yeah. What other metric is there, Alex?
Well,
Kelvin? You meant Kelvin. Okay. Wait, there aren't negative degrees in Kelvin? Well, there aren't even degrees in Kelvin.
No, they're not, which is why I said Fahrenheit. I specifically said Fahrenheit. I love Fahrenheit for, like, weather. Weather is perfect in Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, this is the thing. Like, I would be perfectly happy to go full metric on everything, except I need me some Fahrenheit. Because it's like, hey, 0. This is probably as cold as it ought to get. And then there's 100, which is, this is probably as hot as it ought to get. That's the perfect, it is the perfect range for humanity. Whereas like you're in England, you're like, oh, it's 26. No, it's 25. Oh, good. That's like that matters. Who knows what that means? Nobody has any idea. Yeah. No,
you get much more resolution in the bands in which it is commonly a temperature here on Earth.
Well, and people who do use Celsius on a regular basis, do like when someone asks you, oh, what's the weather outside? You'd be like, it's like 13.476. Like, how many decimals do you give because you're dealing with such a smaller scale? Like, that's, I don't know. It's a real question. Like, do you say it's 23 and a half? Or do you you round it? Because there's a big difference between every single degree. Whereas like here, like 85 and 90 are very big differences, but we can just say, oh, it's 85 or it's 90, and then we know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Fahrenheit is the perfect temperature for, like, actually telling the temperature it is outside. Celsius is better for everything else.
Yes.
Like, literally everything else. But, I digress. Anyway, I'm excited because we have another planet, and it's ours.
We haven't called dibs yet.
I have.
Okay.
Remember, I called dibs before it was even officially announced.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Okay, so speaking of Venus, and it's like, oh no, we trapped too much gas and now everything is hot and blowing up. There is one man who is trying to make us not do that on Earth.
That's me. Hi.
His name is Elon Musk.
I'm going around sticking potatoes in everyone's exhaust to keep global warming from happening.
So Elon Musk, I mean, we should talk about this because we always talk about whenever Tesla or SpaceX does things. This is a Tesla story. So, like, Alex, I'm just going to let you be excited about it. But they made an announcement about about the Model S, the Model S P100D. What? Mm-hmm. Why? All right. With ludicrous mode, which is fantastic, because Spaceballs. With ludicrous mode is the third fastest accelerating production car ever produced, with a 0 to 60 time of 2.5 seconds. Why? Can we stop doing miles per hour? Can we just go to kilometers, please? However, both the LaFerrari, shouldn't it just be Ferrari? I don't know. And the Porsche 918 Spyder with a Y were limited run $1 million vehicles and cannot be bought new. While those cars are small two-seaters with very little luggage space, the pure electric all-wheel drive Model S P100D has 4 doors, seats up to 5 adults plus 2 children, and has exceptional cargo capacity.
So the building in which I work also has a Tesla store in it. So every day I walk by the Model S and I really want them to swap it out for one of these. So when I finally steal it, I can get away from any car that could possibly be chasing me.
Well, so this is a big announcement in the sense that the second paragraph, which I didn't quote here, but the 100 kilowatt hour battery also increases range substantially to an estimated 315 miles on the EPA cycle. And then they go on to say, and 613 kilometers on the NEDC cycle, which I'm like, well, then don't use the same units. Why? I don't. Making it the first to go beyond 300 miles and the longest range production electric vehicle by far.
Yeah.
So, you can have an electric car, but not have to stay within a 3-block radius now.
So You haven't had to stay in a 3-block radius with
It's
Teslas
exaggeration for effect, Alex.
Okay. See, but my question is, when are they going to have the P 4.5D?
Why are they naming these that? Just name it like the Model S.
Well, it's the Model S, and then the D stands for dual. So P stands for power. So P100 is power 100, so 100 kilowatts.
Okay.
And then the D stands for dual motor, so it has one motor in the back and one motor in the front.
200 kilowatts.
No, that refers to the size of the battery.
So 2 batteries.
Well, there's more than 2 batteries. There's a lot of batteries. Some of them in parallel.
So 100 batteries twice over.
Sure.
200 batteries?
No, yeah. There's probably at least 200 cells in there, at least. So yeah, at least 200 batteries. I probably, unless they're really big cells, but I doubt it.
Well, so here's the thing that I don't understand, and this, I guess I used to drive, but I'm not a car person. I've not been a car person in a long time. Does acceleration really, really matter?
No.
Like, who cares?
It's just fun.
Why?
So, when the last time they updated the acceleration of the vehicle, they could go to like 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds or something. And that was the most interesting one to me, because if you floored it, there was a period of time where you'd be experiencing more than 1G. So you could stand at a 45-degree angle in the car while it was going.
So,
because...
Yeah, see, there's the thing is you can go to 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. Please don't, and if you do, the car will automatically radio to have you picked up.
So imagine you get on the highway and you can just like floor it, and like in 2.5 seconds you now have to stop accelerating because you're at the speed limit. That's basically what happens.
I don't know.
You get up to highway speeds in 2.5 seconds.
So,
Mississippi,
okay, so
Mississippi.
I guess that's helpful for on-ramps. Although
you just fly off them.
I don't like. Well, no. When you're trying to merge, if you're like behind a truck that stopped for whatever reason, and then it goes, and you're like, oh god. So now there's traffic coming down at 90 miles an hour, and I have to go from 0 to mergeable in no lane of no amount of merging space.
Now it's trivial. In the Model S.
Still,
also, we should mention this car is $134,000.
Yeah, but you put your money down to get one, didn't you? So who's laughing now?
I put one down for the far, far, far cheaper, like an order of magnitude cheaper Model 3.
Oh. Okay, I thought this was the same thing. Cool.
No.
So there's a different car that has ludicrous speed.
Right. Yeah, my car will not be able to accelerate to 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. My car will be a tenth the price, though.
Okay. $13,000?
No, a little bit more than that. But
so yeah, $13,000 would be amazing. That'd be great.
The effective rate is like 25,000.
They also SpaceX. So yeah, I shouldn't say they because it's not Tesla at all. SpaceX, they're all the same company.
Kinda are.
SpaceX landed a thing again.
Yep, they did again.
Yep. No,
what's new?
I don't know. It was boring.
Okay.
I watched it. It was fun.
You watched it?
I watched it.
You watched it. What?
I watched it. Oh man,
it's huge.
I got to do my vocal exercises and work on my enunciation.
Okay, talk like that the rest of the podcast.
Okay, so another story related to Tesla while we're on the subject. Because now we're out of our billboarded stories, Alex. We can talk about whatever we want now.
Oh wait, podcast is over.
Oh no, no. I do want to talk about this because wow, we're actually like right on the hour.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, I do want to cover this Tesla camping story because it's been there for like 2 weeks now. We should just briefly talk about it.
I think it's really cool.
This was amusing to me. So Tom Randall, writing for Bloomberg, says Tesla camper mode, as it's often called, may not be sanctioned by the company, but a community of drivers is devoted to the practice. There are forums and YouTube videos that praise the virtues of Tesla camping and explore the hacks you'll need to make it work. There's even a third-party Tesla car app with a camp mode function that will optimize the car system for a good night's sleep. So people are going out because you don't have anything under the hood and you don't have stuff taking up the trunk. You can basically pop open the trunk and then just lay everything down flat and then use the car as a tent.
Yeah, and it's air-conditioned.
Right, as an air-conditioned tent and running strictly off of these batteries. And basically, they said you could run this for like 3 days.
Yeah.
More
than that.
Way
more than that.
Okay.
Like, I think it's 3 days if you drive out to the middle of nowhere, drive back like 3 days later and have used like the camping and like the air conditioner running full blast for like 3 days, and like the lights.
Right.
So like you don't want to just airdrop your car down, use up all the battery, and then have to airlift it out again. Like,
well, right.
That would last for like weeks if you were conservative.
Well, so so basically, what people are doing, and the really dumb thing is like the apps are all that they're trying to sort out. Like the camper mode part is like figuring out ways to turn off the dashboard. Like this is the big challenge that they are overcoming in terms of making this car a tent. It's just like, how do we turn stuff off so it's not bright and glary?
Park, the air conditioning, the climate control, like the heater and the air conditioning will only be turned on for half an hour. So if you like you put the car into park, you turn on the AC, in 30 minutes it'll time out. The other thing this app does is it just sends a signal every 30 minutes like, nope, turn the AC back on. Nope, turn the AC back on. Nope, turn the AC back on.
Right.
Like it's just like little stupid things like that Tesla could add settings for in like 8.5 microseconds.
Well, so I don't know. Do these cars have like a sunroof?
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes them so great. And people are really excited for the Model 3 because the Model 3 has a lot more glass on top of it.
Oh, brilliant.
So like you can just sort of lie and look at the stars in your air-conditioned tent.
Oh, man.
Your glass tent.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, it is. It is really cool.
Although I don't know, like it does make me nervous though for the same. I mean, because I've talked about this before, but I was walking around. I went for a walk this morning, and I saw I don't remember what this was, but I saw a whole bunch of cars. They're just parked around. And I thought, because I'm out here in the Midwest and it's rural, so everybody has at least one car, if not more than one car, and trucks and whatever's. But you walk around and there's so much space that has to be devoted to parking. Yeah. And it occurred to me that basically, like from the engineering, from the computer scientist part of me, I'm like, every parked car is a mistake. Right?
Well, maybe not every parked car.
No, every parked car.
You could optimize the system. Yeah, but the cost between allocating a car here and allocating it on the West Coast.
I'm not saying
there's a cost inherent to it.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying. I'm just saying that these are mistakes. I'm not saying that they're. I mean, you're going to have load balancing issues, with the power grid when it's like, hey, everyone wants to turn on their air conditioning when it's hot out. Crap, but that means we have to have more power available than we need when it's not hot out. Right. So there are going to be some of those, but man, I really want to see the Uber and I don't like Uber as a company necessarily, but I do want to see the idea of ride sharing and kind of communal transportation really be the driver behind the electric car revolution, and not just hey, let's extend, because it is. I don't know. I mean, maybe a self-driving RV would be a cool idea to extend the camper mode into something else. But
you go to bed and you wake up in like the next state and you explore the state and like, I would consider like taking a few years to live an autonomous, like that would be great.
That would be pretty cool.
Like,
but I don't want everyone to think that's cool, because what if they all do it?
So what?
Then we have a whole bunch of because the problem is that the waste isn't just it's
electricity. It's electricity.
No. It's not just electricity, but it's also the materials of the cars, and then getting rid of the cars and the power required to recycle the cars or demolish the cars or whatever when they're out of use. Basically, man, I would love to live in a world where there were no parked cars. That's my dream, Alex.
We'll just get a giant magnet, put it in space, and then fire it off.
Pretty sure there are some giant magnets in space.
Yes. Are they called pulsars? I believe pulsars have an extremely ridiculous electromagnetic field.
I think so. They're pretty extremely ridiculous about everything.
Yes. They have such a dense magnetic field that if you were bring it close enough to Earth to like actually experience the electromagnetic field, it would just wipe all the computers and it would be like this podcast never even existed.